What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode where I critique your work. All of the designs that I'm taking a look at today were submitted through our Facebook group, Embroidery and Custom Apparel Mastery, using the hashtag #RateMyWork. At the end of this video, I'm going to pick one of the submissions to win a 3-month subscription to Hoopmade.com. So Hoopmade is basically a website where you can log in and get a bunch of different designs. For example, if you're looking for things about Christmas, you can get designs already digitized that you can put right on your embroidery machine without having to do any edits. All right, guys, if you like this kind of content, please make sure you like and subscribe to our channel to see more videos just like this. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So there's nothing formal about this rating system. I'm just going to give you guys an emoji based on how I feel about the design. All right, so this is from Diana G. First of all, as soon as I open this picture, it's a beautiful picture. Everything is set up. I could already tell everything's set up. I bet that sold pretty quickly. So Diana actually wrote on her comment, I had this spool holder created so that the thread could come out of the spool smoothly doing stitch out. That is genius. I love it. It's different. I haven't seen this anywhere else. I'm actually planning, now that I see this, maybe I could do it myself. Now, getting into first what you're actually using. You're using metallic threads. Oof, those are not fun to work with unless you know how to work with them. Obviously, it looks like you do know how to work with it. I'm trying to look for some kind of puckering, at least a little bit or something, because this is a pretty big design. You're using a sweater and it's a pretty big design. It's a full chest logo. What I'm seeing here, you have none at all. So this is a really, really well done design. Your process was very good. You use good stabilizer, or the right stabilizer, I would say. The design itself, I would say, doesn't have a lot of complex fill. So I think it's perfect. When you have a lot of complex fill on a sweater, for example, you could have some registration issues because there's a lot of stitches pulling towards the areas that your angles are set to. If I would say anything at all of this, I would try to have used as much satin stitches as possible. Satin stitches and metallic threads go really well together, makes it really stand out. But then again, you probably didn't, because you could have some puckering, because they do pull a little bit more than regular tatami stitches. So overall, I have to say this design is, first of all, digitizing is on point. You use a lot of different stitches. You use satin stitches, tatami stitches. You use run stitches with the metallic thread. So I have to really give it to you. It's very artistic. So let's go ahead and write a comment. I don't know, should I put a smiley face? So, no, I'm gonna do something different. This is really nice. So let's go over and put, genius. And there we go. I like that. All right, so we have one here from Rosa. All right, so the first thing I'm looking at here is the style of the hat, and this is a Flexfit. They're not fully structured. They're still pretty structured, so I might just use some kind of stabilizer on this, like a tearaway or something, you know, pretty thin. First thing I'm looking at here is the dog. First of all, I love dogs. I love pets, period, any animal. But this one here, I love it. It looks amazing. It looks realistic. You put a lot of different stitches and different colors, so it really makes it stand out. I do have to knock something out, which would be how high it is on the hat. So this design looks a little bit too high, actually a lot too high, because you never want to go over the 2 holes that are on the top of the cap. And also you never want to go too low where you have too much space, right? You kind of always want to be in the middle. Maybe you're just breaking needles and you decided to bring it all the way up to stop breaking needles. But you could do things like, for example, you can lower your cap driver and also lower your presser foot. All right, so I want to give you some tips on how you can perfect this other than bringing it to the middle of the cap. If you see around the border, it's very, very thin. And I'm not saying you don't have to have it thin. You could have it thick or thin, however you like. But you cannot have a underlay. So when you do have an underlay and it's very thin satin stitches to make those borders, you're gonna see what you see on the bottom, which is some registration issue, right? You see how there's just one line going just on the bottom, and that was the line that was supposed to be under that satin stitch. So there's some things you could do about this. One, you could take out your underlay completely and keep it thin. Or two, you could keep your underlay and make your border thicker. I love the fact that you're taking on the challenge on doing caps. It's not an easy challenge. I have to give it to you. And you know what? Let's go ahead and look for Rocky going up the stairs, man, because you're gonna make it. I know it, because this is right there. You need those little small tweaks and you got this. Let's go for it. All right. All right, so we have one here from Lucas Matthew, and wow, that looks really nice, right? Right off the back. I mean, I have to say it looks really nice. You know, there's something about those letters that some people might think that it's bad, but I know what you're trying to do. Obviously, you're trying to make it look disordered or distressed. I love it. I feel like I have to start playing around with some letters like that, because that's not really easy to do, I would say, because you do need some small satin stitches and thicker satin stitches. So I'm just looking at it here, and I see there's one thing that's very small, and I'm guessing is the beard. I would probably put some shade if the design doesn't have any shade in the beard, or any random stitches that go over it to give it that kind of randomness. And the reason why is because you also have the mustache. So maybe trying to separate those a little bit, not like literally separate them, but like giving the beard some kind of shade so that the mustache and the beard are, you know, visually separated. But if that's how the design is, I have to say it's great. Then again, it's not necessary. I think you did a great job overall. So you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and put a comment as well, because it was good. So looking good. Let's put a GIF in there as well. Let's put handsome. Look at that. Tom Cruise. Who can beat that? Done.
Just shut up. You had me at hello.
Okay, now we have one here from Patrick Peterson. And whoa, that's a lot of patches, man. Just looking at an overall, the first ones obviously that are on the top, they all look pretty much the same. I don't see no inconsistency, so I have to say good job on that. I do see one little thing, and this is something that it's not a big deal. You could either do it on your cleanup process, or you could do it on your digitizing, so you don't have to do too much cleanup. And that's actually this V right here. So you have the H, and then you have a gap between the H and the verses, which is H and V, and you have a jump stitch. You don't want that stitch to just jump over, and you also don't want to trim it. So what you could do is that you could bring the stop point over to the top where the V starts, and now that stitch will be a lot closer to each other. Now I have to say, those small letters, man, they're like super crisp. You did an awesome job. I bet you took the underlay off, and you did a bunch of other different things to make those small letters come out perfect. So I would say one other thing, and that's really up to you. It's using an overlock machine. It's a sewing machine that basically the border of it, it'll embroider the top and the bottom at the same time, and even cut the outer parts for you. And that's like the best way to get a patch done. That's like the original way. Then again, this is totally optional. So overall, man, this is solid. So you know what? What's more solid than the rock, right? Let's put the rock. All right, champ, I like that. You ain't no jabroni. You're rocking it out there. All right, let's move on.
Viva Rock Vegas!
Okay, so we have one here from Terry, and she's saying that she's practicing the stitch out. What do you think? It's soft burp cloth. So right off the back, I have to say, if this is a practice stitch out, I would say it's almost ready. I'm sure you use the aqua topping, because this looks really nice and clean. So a common mistake when beginners start to do something like this would be not using the right stabilizer. When you're using the correct stabilizer, you're not gonna have any registration loss, which is exactly what I'm seeing here. Those small run stitches that are around the border, they came out perfect. So you definitely use the right stabilizer, and you definitely use the right topping. Now, depending on the cloth that you're using, I would use maybe a thick tearaway, or if you don't have a thick tearaway, then I would use a double tearaway, and that should be good enough. If there's anything that I would maybe adjust, maybe adding a trim right where it says it's a boy and you have the exclamation mark. Maybe if you add a trim so that you can tell the difference between the little stick and the dot. What should I put here? Well, baby, and this is incredible, so the incredible baby. There we go. Let's post it. You did an incredible job. Now let's go to the next one here, and we have Shannon Ashley. Okay, so it looks like she's doing her first cap, and she's asking for pointers. And yes, it's obvious you're having some issue. This is registration issue, but let's not focus on that right now. I would say let's focus on the digitizing, because this digitizing looks good. Like, you did a great job on digitizing. Now, let's go on to the registration issue. So I have to say, this is all about hooping. Now, there's so many different things that you have to look at when you're hooping. For example, not going over that center plate, making sure that your sweatband is completely out, making sure that your strap is as tight as you can possibly have it. We do have a video on this that I've made in the past, and you can actually scroll down to the description below. I have it linked there for you and show you exactly how to do it. Overall, this digitizing is done great, and I'm glad that you took the chance to try out hats. And like I've said in the past, they're not the easiest thing to do. Mostly a hat like this. So you're definitely off to a good start. Just with a little bit of practice, I definitely think you can do it.
You can do it!
Now, we have something a little different for you today. One of our customers decided to send us their work to critique it. So, she did tell us that it's not gonna be the best one, but she wants to know how she can fix it. First of all, you have to see your garment. This is the first thing I do. And this is pretty thin. Now, right off the back, I can already tell it's puckering and we're losing registration. In this case, I would use a pretty thick stabilizer, like a cutaway. The customer definitely used a cutaway. Maybe using either double of this cutaway or even a thicker one, I would say. So when you look in the back here, you see all these little tails sticking out. This is because it was trying to trim every single time. Now, there's two things about this. One is that your machine is set to auto trim when there's a satin stitch that's too far away. So we can definitely change that. Just give us a call and we can tell you exactly how to change that. But it is not recommended because these satin stitches are pretty thick. You know, maybe you don't need a satin stitch in this area, maybe just using a complex fill like at the Tommy stitch in just this area and leaving the border. Now, there's another reason why I wouldn't have a satin stitch this thick, and it's because once you put this in the washer, these large satin stitches, most likely they will start coming off. So you really don't want that. That's the main reason why we have our machines auto trimming it for you, is because of that. Now, for the registration issue, I would recommend to use like a Mighty Hoop with the stabilizer that I recommended as well. Mighty Hoops, since they're magnetic and they make it real nice and kind of like a drum. So that's really what you want here. Another thing that I would do here is play around with your push and pull compensation. In this one here, it looks like they're actually pulling in. We have the angles that are going side to side right here, and that's the reason why you're having a gap between here. So basically the top thread and the bottom thread are playing like a tug of war game, right? The top one is pulling up and then the bobbin is pulling down. So basically this is what's going on here. Now, you could always help it by overlapping, also by using the correct stabilizer, and by adding some pull and push compensation. All right, guys, thank you for submitting your designs. Talking about each other's work, I think, is a great way to learn. I am constantly asking people whose designs I admire, how can I improve my work? And I recommend you do the same. There's a lot of people in Facebook groups like ours, Embroidery and Custom Apparel Mastery, that love to give advice. So don't hesitate to reach out and ask for a critique. And again, use the hashtag #RateMyWork to have your designs reviewed. All right, guys, so it's time to choose our winner for the 3-month subscription to Hoopmade. And I think I'm gonna go with Diana G. And that's mainly because that spool holder idea, it's amazing. Like I said, I'm gonna use it myself. So Diana G, thank you for showing us your work. So before I go, I wanna give a big shout out and a big thank you to a customer who gifted me this shirt, and her name is Joan. So thank you so much, and I'll see all of you guys on our next video.